Here we're going to show you the process involved in finishing a bevel gear. So first of all, we have to file each spoke to remove the machining marks. Careful filing at this point makes a big difference later on. We also file each similar section or similar part of the wheel at the same time. It just helps one get the spokes square and level. Notice every time I finish a spoke, we file in different directions to see that we're covering the whole surface. So at the moment I'm doing like a diagonal to the left, but finally we finish this very smooth diagonal to the right, because this file happens to give a good finish in that direction. It's a little awkward as I'm left-handed, and it would be the natural route, the natural instinct is to file the way I'm filing now, but this tends to give a rough finish, or a slightly rougher finish. So finally we do the last file in the smooth direction. Now, care taken when cutting out the spokes pays dividends now, because it's far easier to cut straight than to file out hollows. That's all 5 spokes that side done. So we flip the blank around, we file spokes on the other side. Care is taken to make sure that we get right into the corners. You'll notice we're protecting the edges of the teeth with aluminium chaps in the vice jaws. My vice jaws are ground very smooth and flat, so normally I wouldn't use them, but because we're holding on the edge of the bevel teeth, what happens is we use a very much softer aluminium. It has disadvantages because there's a sizable radius at the top of the chaps that prevents filing or supporting work close to the edge of the vice jaw. It's also a case where a very good, very fine file works. So this being bronze, bronze also doesn't cut well, or doesn't like cutting, so you have to have a very sharp file. Most of my files are going on 20 years old, so what happens is we, and because good new files are very expensive, and you can never quite guarantee how good a good file will be. They seem to have better files in some batches than others. What happens is I electrolytically sharpen my files when they get blunt, and of course we treat them with some care, not so much in where I put them on the bench, but more what I file with them and how we file. One thing that can wreck a very good file quickly is filing steel at high speed in the lathe, because that overheats the carbon steel file and softens the teeth, and of course it can clog it very badly, and that requires special care to unclog. But normally I would keep my brass files for brass only. I have known files that are blunter that I use for steel work. But a good Swiss file. I find velour is very good. Almost never seem to get blood. I ruined a lot of files early on in this project, unfortunately, when I was using hardened filing buttons. I would never do that again. A soft filing button works just as well, and produces results that are just as quick, and not only that, the button is very much quicker to make than a hardened button. If one was doing watch work, one might do so. There you're almost into lapping rather than filing. That's the centre pass done, and that's just the outer edge. It's all first stage filing. This is where the chaps don't work so well. It's difficult to hold the blank with sufficient projecting from the vice jaws. Here again we have a better direction for getting a smooth cut. This file, it's much the same direction, and again making sure that we're leaving no deep scratches if possible. Attention always being paid to sharp corners and squareness. Conveniently or suitably placed vice, as well as a comfortable working position, makes life bearable, although doing this for 8 hours is rather tiring. Here we're concentrating as usual on getting as much as a smooth finish as in a constant radius, as we are worrying about removing the scroll saw marks. And that's the last rim section. And that's that is the gear filed up. Next stage is to get rid of the file marks. Now I use lolly sticks with sandpaper glued to them, and in this case we need slightly narrower than usual than the standard stick, so I cut these sticks down the length in half. And this gear will use about 3 of the sticks, but it's not worth trying to economize on sandpaper. The cost of 3 square inches of sandpaper is not great, and the time gained is far more better used elsewhere. The other thing we have to do is we have to chamfer the edges to provide clearance for the spokes, so that you get right into the corners. And we do this all at the same time, going for the sake of economy of time. The chamfering is not very critical, we just want slightly less than 90 degrees. The grain of the wood makes life awkward. So we've got 6 polishing sticks prepared. And we start off the same process all over again. In this case we wanted to remove all the file marks. Now careful filing and a coarse grit of 400 speed the process up a bit. This is a very important stage. No matter how fine you go ultimately, if one removes all file marks at this stage and you only end up with 400 grit sandpaper marks, the whole process proceeds smoothly. Any bad marks or grooves are best filed out or sandpapered out at this point. There's no point rushing this stage. Good lighting's also helped so you can see properly. And the other thing is, because I'm burnishing the spokes ultimately, what we do here is we make sure that my last sandpaper strokes are along the length of the spoke. It also helps you see any undetected deep scratches. So that's all 5 left spokes done. And again, always attention paid to the corners of the spokes. That piece of sandpaper is blunt, so we turn it around. The good filing, careful filing, makes this, as you can see, go reasonably fast, although there's a multitude of faces to take care of. First strip's worn out. Like already fine work, we'd go through the grits 400, 600, 1000, 2500 and 5000, which gives one a virtually polished finish. On smaller watch work, one would normally use solid or metal support or laps finally, but on such large surfaces where we're talking at material that's almost 1/8 of an inch thick, it's ample to get a good finish. With a stick, one must be careful not to the corner that needs a bit of extra tension. One must be careful not to push too hard on the stick and bow it too much. Although a very slightly rounded surface, as in a gentle curve across the face of the material, actually produces a better looking reflection than a perfect optical flat, which is almost dead and it either appears as light or dark, whereas a slightly rounded surface, you get your highlights showing up far better. Again, Next strip's blunt. There's no point going any finer than 400 on this bigger work, because it just takes far too long to get the first stage, and while it looks almost crude, the finish, as you go finer everything squares up far better. So that's the outer, the inner boss done, and now we've got the outer rim. This is always the most awkward one, primarily because we're trying to finish a rounded surface with a flat stick. So that's also where the narrower sticks work better. And again, in grain to make sure that we've got no scratches left. There's a stubborn one. Keep going until it's gone. And make sure all our sandpaper marks are also relooped. It's the first section done. I've got 4 to go. Another one blunt. So as I said, it's about $3 a sheet, and when you're using perhaps a 20th of a sheet, you're looking at 15 cents worth of sandpaper per year. That's not a large expense. There's no point in trying to economize. The other thing is these sticks make sure that we use every last square millimeter of sandpaper. I also tend to put a bias this way on the stick, so that when you, especially these thinner sticks, so that when one sandpapers they tend to stay straight under pressure, not bow badly, because we don't want to give the appearance of a rounded surface, although we don't mind a very gentle radius, and we still want to preserve our sharp edges, because that gives the whole clock a crisp look. And that's our last section, outer rim section done. We've got some stone marks there again. Now in this instance what we're going to do is we're going to use an old English traditional method of finishing. This is a curve or a burnisher. It's actually smooth, even the sharp edge is polished. It's a bit like a letter opener in the days of old-fashioned mail. And what we do is we actually just rub it, taking care not to leave dents. And the other thing is it also compacts the surface. In the old days, of course, when files and sandpaper were exorbitantly expensive, and if you didn't make them yourself, it cost an enormous amount to buy. A burnisher was a simple tool to make and rather effective in polishing. And then we do the other 5. sharp edge of this burnisher is particularly made so that we can go right into the corners of the spokes. And we use the big radius edge to make sure there's no dents in the middle, because we can't go a full length of the spoke. This is how I believe most wheel work was finished on English long cases. With a highly polished burnisher, a very reasonable polish can be achieved quickly. Now we're doing the center boss. And that's the center boss burnished, and then again we have the outer spokes, the outer rim. That's the inside of the spokes burnished. What we do now is we move over to the polishing lathe. Where I have a spigot that we place the gear on, and here we have a disc with again 400 sandpaper and 1000, and what we use is a stationary rubber to clean the sandpaper, and this is used to polish the inside of the bevel gear. So we're taking into account we want to get the boss all nice and clean, and when the sandpaper is blocked or clogged, it can be reasonably well cleaned. And this is continued until we have a whole surface clean. This is one of the awkward points, or why it's difficult to make bevels, is the polishing, because you're not polishing the normal flat surface of a wheel. There we have the whole surface cleaned up. So we're over to our 1000. This is again like the polishing sticks. The sandpaper is just held on with or attached with spray adhesive. And that's the center boss finished. Then we look after the bevels. And again, good machining and a fine surface finish makes this job a lot quicker. For the inside bevel, we need short pieces. We need support, so what we use is again the standard with sandpaper, and when it's blunt, all we do is we just cut a piece off and we're back onto a fresh section. So as you can see, we use virtually every square millimeter, and then we're onto our 1000 grit. And when we're happy that we've got the proper surface finish, we remove it and we go over to the flat polishing section. Here I've got 600 grit, 1000 grit and 2500 grit. It's just plate glass, and the sandpaper's again attached with an aerosol glue, and we keep sandpapering with the coarse sandpaper until we have the whole surface cleaned up and any scratches removed. And then we're pretty well done with our coarse sanding. And we get rid of all the grit, turn the wheel 90 degrees, and on 1000 we remove all our 600 grit scratches. And when that's done, again get rid of all the grit, and back to the original 90 degree direction on 1200, remove all the 1000 scratches. Lastly, instead of pressing hard, give it a very light rub, which again almost burnishes it, and we have a very reasonable surface. We're back onto the polishing lathe, and now we use a brush for polishing the teeth. A little brasser, and cover to prevent brass getting everywhere. And in this instance we're polishing the bottoms of the teeth. As you can see, I'm polishing, the bristles are running out of the groove and off the wheel. I'm not polishing like this, which produces a rounded surface, nor are we polishing long. It's a very quick process. And then the same applies to our inner section. This is also giving the inside of the spokes a bit of attention. Then what we do is we remove the brush back on the spigot, and the inside of the rim and the boss a bit of attention. The spigot is very slightly tapered, so then to clean the spokes we back to the vise and piece of cloth, and we give each each spigot cleaner. We have all these spokes cleaned, and then get the residue, polish out the teeth with a standard old watchmaker's brush. Finally, these parts will go through the ultrasonic cleaner and where possible be lacquered. So that is our finished gear.